Aspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back with you on this beautiful Thursday morning, the 19th of March, 2026. From my understanding, tomorrow is slated to be Eid. So I will say Eid Mubarak in advance to all our subscribers and wider Muslim community. I hope you've enjoyed your Ramadan period, and as you wrap it up, we wish you all the best and may Allah grant your wishes. This beautiful morning, we'll be talking about the quarterfinals of the UEFA Champions League, of course, in relation to the results from yesterday that did wrap up the round of 16 games. And now we have affirmation or confirmation of the teams that will be playing at the quarterfinals of this year's UEFA Champions League. Meanwhile, as I did promise you yesterday, our video is already out about Manchester City, that video that was supposed to premiere late last evening, and then Power decided to mess it all up. That video is already out, so you can go over to the channel and watch it and let us know what your thoughts are on that conversation. So it's a conversation that we did have. Excuse me. It's a video that I did yesterday, and I was taking a look into Manchester City's upcoming engagements, really in the context or in the wake of them being eliminated from the UEFA Champions League, and what that could imply for them in regards to the Premier League title race. Of course, it would have been a more busier schedule had they advanced to the quarterfinals to where they would have faced Bayern Munich. But instead, it is Real Madrid that will be having those engagements on their behalf, perhaps. So with that said, that's why I thought it was prudent for us on the channel to have that conversation about Manchester City in the wake of that result. So it's a beautiful conversation we did hold on there. So I do implore you to go and check it out. It's a very short video, so do not worry. It won't take much of your time. I think it's about 10 minutes or 10 minutes worth. Yeah, about 10 minutes 58 seconds or approximately 11 minutes. So go over there to the channel and watch it and let me know what your thoughts are. Raymond Kangumba is back, says for him, he simply wants Ed Howe sacked in the wake of their humiliating defeat at the hands of Barcelona yesterday in the UEFA Champions League, which saw them get knocked out from the competition. So therefore, we will start on that front without wasting any further ado, because we saw English Premier League teams being humiliated over two legs at the round of 16. Four English Premier League teams conceded a combined total of 28 goals and scored 11. So that's what, a 17-goal deficit, really. So they did not paint themselves in good shade, and Newcastle was among those that chipped in quite a bit, because yesterday they lost by 7-2 at the Camp Nou. Now, to be fair, excuse me, or to be honest, Newcastle had a brilliant game in as far as the first opening 45 minutes were concerned. It is in the second half that they decided to let loose and shipped in three or four goals in a space of 30 minutes. So, but yeah, we did have a very, very entertaining fixture at Camp Nou, one that was 2-2 before the half-hour mark, and we thought, well, we do have a game on our hands. There was a bit of lapse in concentration. I thought Malik Thiaw was the worst man on the pitch yesterday. He did not have the confidence to be at the stage that he was on. He did not get his nerves together. He defended as though he was some amateur academy player that was pulled out last minute. It was just a poor performance from him individually. But yet, in as far as the first half was concerned, I thought Dan Burn would have stood up for me. He would have easily been my man of the match. Because of how well he defended their backline. He had a very beautiful timely intervention against Robert Lewandowski. Anthony Elanga on the other side looked sharp, made timely runs, and it's no surprise he scored that brace for Newcastle, responding to Rafinha's goal in the 6th minute. So he scored in the 15th minute, while when Mark Beno scored in the 18th minute, it was Anthony Elanga once again who responded in the 28th minute to restore parity to make it 2-2. But as the case was in the first leg, the other time in the first leg at the tail end of the game, this time round at the tail end of the first half, they once again considered a penalty. And why? Because their captain, Kieran Trippier, thought it was wise to impede Rafinha by pulling him to prevent him to lash onto an incoming cross. So it went to VAR, and there was only one decision to make, to award a penalty and give Kieran Trippier a yellow card. So that's how the game went 3-2 at halftime. I thought, even though he had provided, I thought Lamine Yamal had a very, very poor first half, even though he stepped up and scored the resultant penalty, handed over to him by Rafinha, who scored a brace of penalties over the weekend as they beat up against Sevilla by 5-2. So he did really, really well. So Rafinha wrapped up the day with a brace, of course, and 3 assists, or a hat-trick of assists. I think he did deserve the man of the match performance. He really, really did well. Robert Lewandowski picked up a brace of his own. So in the second half, it was Fermin Lopez in the 51st minute, while Robert Lewandowski came quick in the 56th minute to make it a 5-2 at the time. And then in the 61st minute, Lewandowski was at it again with a brilliant header this time round to make it 6-2. And then just a couple of minutes later, about 11 minutes later, Rafinha sealed it up with that 7th goal when Morgan Rogers attempted to switch the wing of play, and that ball was intercepted by Rafinha. So I do not think there's much you could blame Aaron Ramsdale for in goal. It was just that Barcelona were quite effective in front of goal, but a majority of those goals were orchestrated by Newcastle's lapses in concentration in defense in as far as the second half was concerned. In the first half, they went toe-to-toe with Barcelona. They did not play with the low block. They played with that sort of middle block. They sort of looked to close in Barcelona, intercept balls right closer to the midfield area, and then go on to quick counterattacks on the other side and find goals. So I think they were overly encouraged by the performance from the first half, but also at the same time being dismayed that there were 2 down, that they thought if they play with the high line, perhaps they can quickly get back themselves into the game to restore parity. But that turned out to be a grievous mistake or tactical error, either from Ed Howe or how his boys simply applied themselves. Going into that fixture, we had said, and I quote, that should Newcastle behave the way they behaved in the first leg, then they will have a chance. But the Camp Nou is always a monstrous stadium to go to. We know how difficult that place is to go to. In any case, there's yet a team that has gone there and survived. Atletico Madrid went there and shipped in 3. Copenhagen shipped in 4. Sevilla shipped 5. Teams like I think Bilbao have conceded like thrice there. So it's been made as such a thing as a fortress by Barcelona going it there. Not that because, by the way, even though Barcelona were 3-2 up in the first half, I wasn't too far convinced about their performance. I thought Newcastle made them look average in any case. I thought they made it look like it was going to be a fair fight. And yet on paper, it was never going to be a fair fight. It is Barcelona, the team that has won 5 UEFA Champions League titles. Really, Newcastle have never had a sniff. We're talking about, they were up against a team that has never beaten them. Who they managed to beat back in 2003 at the group stages, home and away, who they beat in the league phase by 2-1 before being held to a 1-1 draw in the first leg of the round of 16. So really, everything was on Barcelona's side. When it comes to players, maybe away from, I think, maybe Barcelona's backline in terms of the defense, I do not think there is a Newcastle player that would slot into straight away that midfield. Into that Barcelona team. Maybe Just maybe. I think I would swap out Mark Beno for Sandro Tonali to play alongside Pedri. Maybe that's Then when it comes to the front three of Rafinha, Lamine Yamal, and Robert Lewandowski, I don't think I would swap them for Anthony Gordon, Anthony Langa, and Harvey Barnes. Not really. So it was a complete Barcelona team, and Hansi Flick does continue. I was looking at a statistic that they have scored 303 goals in about 158 games or thereabout, and I thought that is astronomical for the games that Hansi Flick has been in charge of. No, not 158. In fact, it's 105 games. So, because this is his second season in charge, in his debut campaign, he won a treble, a domestic treble. Unfortunately, he's not yet. He's already. He won't be winning the domestic treble again because they were knocked out of the Copa del Rey at the hands of Atletico de Madrid, 4-3 on aggregate, to set up a final between Atletico de Madrid and Real Sociedad. Really, Barcelona already won the Super Copa Hispana. They are en route to win the Spanish La Liga for the second time of asking, and in the UEFA Champions League, I think that's the trophy they want the most. They're on a good pathway. They take on Atletico de Madrid, a team that I think they will eventually knock out over 2 legs. I do not know if they will make it to the final, but if they do, Hansi Flick has never lost a final. So I think any team will be praying that they do not meet Barcelona at the final because Hansi Flick either has such good luck and tremendous work effort or has a knack for winning finals than most managers. So anyways, we'll leave that at that. But it was a beautiful game to watch. Beautiful game to watch. But yeah, therefore, Newcastle were eliminated 8-3 on aggregate score. And then by extension, we quickly go to that game between Bayern Munich and Atlanta. Bayern Munich putting 4 past Atlanta, who only scored 1 through Smadzik. But Hurricane scored a brace in that one. A retaken penalty in the first half did give Bayern Munich the lead to go 1-0 up by halftime. Then in the second half, Hurricane scored a brilliant goal. He had to dance through a couple of defenders before putting that in the back of the net, while Lennart Karl got his 4th of the campaign. And then Luis Diaz, same as well, got his 4th of the UEFA Champions League campaign. He had already provided the assist for Lennart Karl's goal. So those goals in the second half coming in the 54th, 56th, and 70th minutes respectively, while Atlanta's consolation came in the 85th minute. Therefore, they were knocked out 10-2 on aggregate. The last time Bayern Munich humiliated a side that much at the knockout stages, it was Arsenal. They beat them 5-1 home and away to knock them out 10-2 on aggregate score. So looks like this time around it was Atlanta that was the receiving end of the whipping stroke of Bayern Munich, a very, very decent team. And in qualifying for the quarterfinals, I don't know why I keep calling them Barcelona. In qualifying for the quarterfinals, FC Bayern Munich do set themselves quite up the encounter against Real Madrid, and I think the world will be really, really looking forward to that one. And the reason for that is simple. Because it's a fixture that we've not seen play out, I think, in a long while. First of all, we know that Real Madrid have knocked out. We know that Bayern Munich have knocked out Real Madrid before, and so have Real Madrid knocked out. Bayern Munich before. For those of you that can't remember, the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League for the 2023-2024 season, Real Madrid beat Bayern Munich at the Allianz Arena by 2-1 after a 2-all. No, Real Madrid beat Bayern Munich at the Santiago Bernabeu by 2-1 that preceded a 2-all draw at the Allianz Arena for them to knock out Bayern Munich in the competition. Then, when you go back in yesteryears, in 2018, Real Madrid, I think, beat 2018. No, that's they had Liverpool, right? But yeah, Real Madrid have the advantage. Okay, in terms of pedigree, or in terms of historical meetings, Real Madrid have the advantage. So we'll be waiting for that encounter in just a bit. So Bayern Munich will be up against Real Madrid. Real Madrid knocked out Manchester City, deservedly so, 5-1 on aggregate score. I mean, I look forward to that contest, and it feels like in terms of present form or this season on paper, it feels like the balance of scale is tilting towards the side of Bayern Munich, but you can never write off Real Madrid. They know how to turn up the heat. They know how to turn up the gears once it's the UEFA Champions League, and we saw that against Manchester City. Excuse me. Whether they can carry it on in the same spirit, that remains to be seen. We'll wait and see. I've never understood why my mouth decides to yawn when the broadcast starts. You'll hardly find me yawning when we're not broadcasting. Anyways, jokes aside. So, I mean, I look at it. Luis Diaz, Michael Olise, Serge Gnabry, Leonard Carl, Harry Kane, that sort of firepower of Bayern Munich, they've scored so many goals already this season. It's almost scary. That midfield of Pavlovic, Joshua Kimmich, the backline of Jonathan Tah, Dayot Upamecano, Tommy Bischoff, Stanisic, very, very decent side. Unfortunately for them, currently, their goalkeepers have been out through injury, but I think they'll be back by the time we wrap up the international break. So they will already be back. And we'll have quite a good contest. Okay. Liam. Hi, Liam. You say you're back. It's always good to have you back. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. Then in the other game, Liverpool thrashed Galatasaray by 4-0. I mean, guys, I knew I had confidence in Liverpool going through, but I did not expect the kind of performance that they did put up last night. Now, they were so good that they made Galatasaray look so poor. In other words, you remember after the first leg, when Atletico de Madrid beat up against Spurs by 5-2, I made the argument that Tottenham Hotspurs lost just largely because of their own mistakes, not because Atletico Madrid had been too good. In any case, the reverse fixture of that showed that, what I was talking about. So this time round, Liverpool looked so good that they made Galatasaray look so poor. You say I have school in 7 minutes. By the way, God bless you. Thank you so much, Liam. Have a blessed day. We wish you all the best in your school endeavors. Thank you for sparing a minute to chip in. Always much appreciated. Perhaps next time better, you'll have more time to join us for longer. So, I mean, Dominic Szoboszlai had a great game. Mohamed Salah almost involved in everything that they did. He looked so sharp and brilliant on the day. Yes, he may have missed a penalty at the tail end of the first half, but he made amends for that, providing the assist for Hugo Ekitike's goal, providing the pre-assist. I will call it a pre-assist for Gravenberch's goal before scoring himself, really, for himself. So it was a whole complete performance. It was really, really impressive to watch. they managed to neutralize the threat of Galatasaray. Almost, it was close to non-existent. Victor Osimhen struggled to carry on with what appeared to be an arm injury. So he did not contest favorably when it came to the physical deals of the game in terms of challenging defenders for the ball. You know, and for me, the man of the match, had it not been for Mo Salah, I would have gone with the Galatasaray goalkeeper, Akaki. I thought you did so well, really, so well, you know. So those goals in the 25th minute from Dominic Szoboszlai are very easy tapping. I think it was a corner kick, started swiftly, and he just slotted that into the bottom corner, and the goalkeeper wasn't alert enough to get his hand to it. So, and it was 1-0. And then at the tail end of the first half, Dominic Szoboszlai won Liverpool a penalty. Mohamed Salah stepped up and it was saved by Kaki. And then in the second half, in the 51st minute, he provided a brilliant assist for Hugo Ekitike, who scored to make it 2-1, and then just 2 minutes later, he had a thunderous shot that was kept out by Kaki, and the rebound fell to Ryan Gravenberch, who put it in the back of the net, and it was 3-0. Then later on, Galatasaray considered an own goal through Singo, but that own goal was ruled out because the participator or the orchestrator of that in Jeremy Frimpong was judged to be in an offside position when he brings in the ball. Then in the 62nd minute, Mo Salah, capitalizing on a brilliant assist from Florian Wirtz, scored to make it 4-0. Liam says, bye, gotta go. My mom said, no phone, bye. Have a blessed day. A blessed day to you too, Liam. Have a wonderful day at school. Okay, so, and then Liverpool scored the 5th goal, and that was scored by Alexis Mac Allister. But then the referee blew his whistle, calling for foul on the goalkeeper, Kaki, with Virgil van Dijk judged to be the culprit. And I thought that was nonsensical. Why? And I've expressed my feelings about this, that whereas it is a good move and it ought to be done, and it ought to be done, I thought or felt that that goal should have stood. You know, UEFA referees have come out with this idea of wanting to be very protective of goalkeepers, especially in set-piece plays, with corner kicks and long throw-ins. Having watched a couple of videos, I think perhaps of set-piece plays from the Premier League where they feel goalkeepers are largely being impeded by opponent players. And so they come with that prejudiced mind. And for me, yesterday was a confirmation of that, because when you look at the flight of the ball, the goalkeeper is not being interrupted whatsoever. Virgil van Dijk goes in the air to challenge for the ball. Now the goalkeeper gets his hand to the ball, but he does not catch it with both arms. He puts his one hand to it, and in putting that one hand to it, he puts the ball on the head of Virgil van Dijk, who had risen in the air to win the header. So Virgil van Dijk doesn't get the header, his head to the ball, but the goalkeeper brings the ball to his head, and then the ball drops, and then Mac Allister capitalizes and he scores. And the referee blows his whistle for a foul. And I'm thinking to myself, how goddamn is that a foul? You know? I mean, are we playing lone tens? That your opponent is supposed to be on one side of the net and you're supposed to be on the other? No. Because it's not like Virgil van Dijk contested shoulder to shoulder with the goalkeeper. Not even that. And even if that had been the case, how do you then penalize that? How is he supposed to challenge for the ball? You know? So it was a stupid decision, by the way. Unfortunately, VAR's intervention was lacking. In other words, they decided to carry on with the on-field decision. I do not know how that's not a clear and obvious error by the referee for making the wrong call. I don't know if they felt pity for Galatasaray to say the damage has already been done. You do not need to make it any worse. I don't know if they had bookies in their ears to say, yeah, it can't go beyond 4 goals. I do not know. But it did feel stupid, you know? So you can imagine if that's because the stakes are high. Now imagine that's the only goal that Liverpool had. That was the second goal Liverpool had scored on the night. And then you rule that out. Eventually, let's say they get knocked out by Galatasaray. What would you be telling Liverpool fans? Because the question is, what was the foul there? I didn't see none. Unless somebody out there, one of you guys, saw something that I did miss, I did not see a foul in that. You know? So anyways, it ended 4-0 in favor of Liverpool, who are really, really good. They had as many as 16 shots on target. They had 16 shots on target. They had 10 off target. They had 6 blocked shots compared to Galatasaray's 1 shot on target, 2 off target, and only 1 blocked. They dominated possession to the tune of 62%. It was just an all-round brilliant performance. Now, yesterday, I think out of sheer pressure, the Liverpool manager, Arne Slot, was as animated as you can have him. He was more animated than an animation cartoon. So, you know, he was really, really involved on the touchline. Then, moving on to wrap up the final games of the round of 16, was Tottenham Hotspur versus Atletico de Madrid. Tottenham managed to come out on top thanks to a late penalty by Xavi Simons. That penalty coming in the 90th minute, but early on in the game, that was to mark his best on the night, by the way. But Tottenham went in the lead in the 30th minute through Rondo Colomwani to make it 1-0, which was 1-0 at halftime. And then quickly, as soon as upon the restart in the 47th minute, Julian Alvarez struck a beautiful goal to make it 1-1 or to restore parity on the evening, with Ademola Lookman providing the assist, but that they could not hold on to that lead for long because about 5 minutes later they conceded through Xavi Simons' brilliant take, who made it 2-1. Tottenham did perform okay. It was good, but not good enough. It was good enough to win 3-2, but not good enough to see them through. Then in the 75th minute, David Hanko did score to make it 2-2. And then before that penalty came a quarter an hour later. So in the end, it was 3-2. I think Igor Tudor will be proud of his team's performance, but not so proud because they did concede some avoidable goals. If they had, just imagine they had won 3-0, who knows? That game obviously would have gone to extra time because it would have been 5-5 on aggregate score. But my worry always wasn't on Tottenham Hotspur scoring. It was always on Tottenham Hotspur avoiding to concede, you know. Anyway, so really, you know, Chelsea, they're taking swipes at Chelsea for getting knocked out 8-2 on aggregate score. So Man United fans online were trying to take a dig at Chelsea, and then somebody reminded them that Liverpool put 7 past them in a single fixture, so they should not dwell too much on that. Guys, anyway, that's how it wrapped up. So really, Tottenham Hotspur won. They still went out 5-7 or 7-5 on aggregate score, and therefore we do have the quarterfinal set up between Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich. We do have Barcelona versus Atletico de Madrid. That's a La Liga derby. We do have Sporting CP versus Arsenal, and then PSG versus Liverpool. So the fixtures are as such. The way I've read them, that's how they are set up. Why? Because a team that finished higher in the UEFA Champions League table does get to play the reverse fixture at home. Now, when you see Real Madrid had to go through the playoffs, Bayern Munich finished second, Sporting CP finished 8th on the league table. No, they finished 7th, I think. On the UEFA Champions League table, Arsenal were the leaders. Barcelona finished in the top 8. Atletico de Madrid finished outside that. They played Club Brugge in the playoffs. Liverpool finished, I think, was it 4th or 3rd? I think 3rd on the UEFA Champions League table, while PSG had to go through the playoffs where they knocked out Monaco. Now, if that result from PSG, by the way, against Chelsea is anything to go by, it shows once again that PSG are going through the tournament once again, just like they did last season, because their performances against Monaco were really, really wanting. But I also do understand what it means to play a team from your own league. It becomes a league a league derby. And it can be very difficult. But by extension, when you remember the last 3 games of the playoffs, PSG had not been good enough. They had not been good enough. They had not been worthy of a team that should be even finishing in the top 8, because in the last 3 games, they lost to Sporting CP. That was match day 7, possibly. They drew away to Bilbao, goalless. I think that was match day 6. And then 1-1 against Newcastle, match day 8. So, and then they went into the playoffs where they did not paint themselves in any glory whatsoever. So really, you look at it and think to yourself, well, I think I may have, now, I didn't think maybe I underestimated them, but I judged them based on what they had set for themselves, to think that Chelsea would perhaps have a say in who gets to the quarterfinals. But Chelsea did not say anything. They just got obliterated, home and away, straightforward. So Liverpool, PSG, this is a rebuttal from last season's round of 16. We know that PSG knocked out Liverpool on penalties that proceeded a 1-1 draw in aggregate score over 2 legs in normal time. Liverpool winning away at Parc des Princes, while PSG won at Anfield in normal time. So, and so here's how the draw is set. Whoever advances between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich will face off with whoever advances between Liverpool and PSG. And then whoever comes through between Sporting CP and Arsenal will take on whoever advances through between Barcelona and Atletico de Madrid. Now, if you're an Arsenal fan, you'll be praying so hard that Atletico de Madrid knock out Barcelona. That will be your prayer. However, I can sit here and nearly guarantee that Atletico de Madrid are going to be knocked out. Then on the other side, Liverpool PSG, that's a difficult one. I would lean towards PSG, by the way. And there's been speculation over Luis Enrique's future, but this is not the first time speculation has been levied on his future. But there are allegations that should he win a back-to-back UEFA Champions League with PSG, he may as well pack his bags and say goodbye to the PSG project. Apparently, there's very, very strong interest from Chelsea, who are having doubts over Liam Rossigna. Chelsea have wanted Luis Enrique before. He said no to them. So Africa will never unite. But you did not predict Tottenham Hotspur to win yesterday. Yeah, I did not predict them to win. I did think they were going to have a performance as poor as they had in the first leg. So, credit to them. But following their 1-1 draw at Anfield, in the previous weekend, I thought they had a very improved performance compared to those they had had prior to any of those games, because remember, they got obliterated by Crystal Palace 3-1. Then they got thrashed by Atletico de Madrid 5-2 in Spain. So really, based on that evidence, even against Liverpool, I had not predicted that they would even pick up a draw. I thought Liverpool were going to dismiss them quite easily, but Liverpool failed to capitalize on their chances, lots of them that they created while they were still 1-0 up. And because they did not make that count, Richarlison scored and it was 1-1. So really, so it's predictions. Like I said, when you go back to the round of 16, as the fixtures were, particularly, let's go through them quickly here, and I tell you what my predictions were. Oh, sorry. Yes, Bayern Munich, Atalanta, I went for Bayern Munich to go through, and Bayern Munich have gone through. Liverpool, Galatasaray, I went for Liverpool over 2 legs. Atletico Madrid versus Tottenham, I went for Atletico de Madrid to advance over 2 legs. Barcelona versus Newcastle, I went for Barcelona to advance over 2 legs. Newcastle versus Bayern Munich, Barcelona versus Newcastle, I went for Barcelona. Arsenal versus Bayer Leverkusen, I went for Arsenal. Chelsea versus PSG, I went for Chelsea. Chelsea got knocked out. Real Madrid versus Man City, I went for Man City. Man City got knocked out. So out of the 8 fixtures, I got 6 in terms of over 2 legs who advances. So perhaps you will cut me some. Oh, then Bodo Glimt versus Sporting CP. I went for Sporting CP to edge. I thought it would be close, and indeed it was close, because you can see that Bodo Glimt won the first leg by 3-0, and Sporting CP had to overturn that. They had to resummon their gods from 1983-1984 during the Cup Winners' Cup edition, when they knocked out Manchester United after losing 4-1 in the first leg before winning 5-0 in the reverse fixture. That was in, I think, March 18th in 1984. So really, it is football. So here is my prediction, and I know we'll get to have this conversation in the wider part of it, or in the wider context of the review and build up to those fixtures, preferably during the international break. That's when I intend to have a more look into some of these fixtures. For starters, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. I'm torn on that one. I do support Bayern Munich. Sorry, I do support Real Madrid. I did not want to, by the way, fair enough, I did not want to get Real Madrid to get here. Why? Because they have not been good enough. But more importantly, because I do support Arsenal on the other side. So I thought if Man City went through and they would get to play Bayern Munich at the quarterfinals of the Champions League, it would give them more engagement and perhaps cost them more trouble, as opposed to them having to concentrate on their pursuit of the Premier League title in chasing down Arsenal. So that was the selfish desire. So that was more selfish than it was objective, But but also in the same spirit, I did say never count off Real Madrid. There is a reason as why they are the most successful team in the Champions League. So Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich. Now, Real Madrid have a very good record against Bayern Munich. And you will find that in previous meetings between the two sides, Bayern Munich, I think, have only beaten up against Real Madrid once. Have they even ever? Okay, not once, but actually, I'm struggling to find. Bayern Munich beat up against Real Madrid in the Audi Cup. That was in 2015 by 0-0. Other than that, I struggle to find a Bayern Munich victory over Real Madrid. All I can find is a couple of draws. A 2-2 draw at the Allianz Arena in 2024, a 2-2 draw at the Santiago Bernabeu in 2018. Real Madrid had won the first leg by 2-1. Then in 2017, after extra time, Bayern Munich lost 4-2 to Real Madrid. Real Madrid had won the first leg by 2-1. So really, when you go back to 2014, there's a 4-0 thumping of Real Madrid against Bayern Munich and a 1-0 victory at the Santiago Bernabeu. So really, forgive me if I do not have much hope in Bayern Munich. Now, this Bayern Munich, you could argue, is different. But with that kind of record, I'm going to tilt towards Real Madrid to knock out Bayern Munich. Then, Barcelona, Atletico de Madrid. I don't know. It does feel like it's not going to be an easy fixture, but it does feel straightforward that Barcelona will go through at whatever cost, in whichever way. That's just what I feel. And I hope I'm wrong, by the way. I do hope I'm wrong. So, Real Madrid, Barcelona in the semifinals. That's two La Liga teams. Then, Liverpool versus PSG. Like I said, I'm leaning towards PSG on this one. I'm leaning towards PSG. Liverpool had a very good game against them. Liverpool seem to, I don't know if they seem to be growing in the competition, but that encounter between them and PSG will tell us everything that we need to know. And you can imagine if, let's say, Liverpool were to knock out PSG and then we have Liverpool meeting Real Madrid again. It's a possibility if Fed decides it. And then we have Sporting CP versus Arsenal. It's not going to be an easy fixture as people may want to assume it to be. Of course, when you compare Sporting CP in comparison to all the other teams, even those that have never won it, Arsenal inclusive, Atletico de Madrid inclusive, they seem like the more lightweight opponent, So, but I'll fancy Arsenal's chances over two legs to advance to the semi-finals. And those will be quite some key battles. So the first leg of the quarterfinals will be played after the international break in April. Those fixtures should be coming on, let me see, the week of 8th, 7th, thereabout. Yeah, 7th April and 8th April. That's when you should expect that's when you should expect the semi-final first legs, the quarter-final first legs. And then, because on Tuesday, 7th April, Arsenal will be playing away to Sporting CP. Both games kick off at 10 p.m. Real Madrid will be up against Bayern Munich. Then on Wednesday, Barcelona against Atletico de Madrid. Oh. PSG versus Liverpool. So, yeah. We'll have to wait and see. Then, okay. No, I have not missed any comment. So that's the quarterfinals of the UEFA Champions League. But the way Premier League teams got smashed with a litany of goals, they just made them look average. They just made them look average. Really, really average. Oh. In that common courtesy. Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on from that. So, meanwhile, quickly, let's pack the Champions League to the sides. I had promised to tell you more about what's happening with the CAF decision. I've been listening in more to the views and opinions from experts and people that are more familiar with the rules of the game than I. And it looks like majority of them are leaning towards Senegal. And I'm trying to see if I can find those rules and read them to you out. In particular, for those of you that are not familiar with what we are talking about, we are talking about CAF's decision to strip Senegal of the 2025 AFCON triumph and award it to Morocco, saying that they forfeited the game. So the rules they cite, or that is Article 82, and then the penalties are provided in provision or in Article 84, but there's a school of argument that they ignored Article 83. So let's review or hear what this article says. So Article 82 says, if for any reason whatsoever a team withdraws from the competition or does not report for a match or refuses to play or leaves the ground before the regular end of the match without the authorization of the referee, it shall be considered loser and shall be eliminated for good from the current competition. The same shall apply for the teams previously disqualified. The same shall apply for the teams previously disqualified by the decision of CAF. So, the key words here that we need to focus on. If for any reason whatsoever, a team withdraws from the competition or does not report for a match, so Senegal did not violate any of those, they did report for the match, or refuses to play or leaves the ground. Senegal for a moment refused to play, did leave the ground in protest before the regular end of the match without authorization from the referee. That one did not happen, and it's not good. But the referee did not call an end to the game, so he still took charge of the situation. It shall be considered loser and shall be eliminated for good from the current competition. The same shall apply for teams that previously disqualified by CAF. Then Article 83 says, a team shall not be present on the ground dressed to play at the fixed time for kickoff or at most 15 minutes later. It says, a team that shall not be present on the ground dressed to play at the time fixed for the kickoff or at most 15 minutes later shall forfeit the match. In other words, if you fail to show up or show up late for the match, the referee shall register the absence of the team and shall write it in his report. The organizing committee shall take the final decision in this respect. Then Article 84 says, the team which contravenes the provisions of 82 and 83 shall be eliminated for good from the competition. This team will lose its match by 3-0 unless the opponent has scored a more advantageous result at the time when the match was interrupted. In this case, this score will be maintained. The organizing committee may adopt further measures. Now, there's somebody obviously with more expertise than I do, having been at some appeals committee level. I think at the CAF disciplinary committee level, served as at some point, who made the argument in making reference to Article 83. Now, Article 83 talks about basically absconding, not showing up at all. Now, there you forfeited the game, which Senegal did not do. They showed up and played. So I feel that that article is sort of tossed out of the window, as if. That's what I feel. That's my interpretation of it. It's not ultimate. It's not finite. It's an opinion. So he makes the argument, this gentleman makes the argument that Article 84 talks about that the team which contravenes the provisions of the Articles 82 and 83 shall be eliminated for good from the competition. Now, lawyering, not easy. So, Article 84 does not say that the team which contravenes provisions of Article 82 or 83 shall be eliminated. In other words, it is true that Senegal violated some provisions in 82, but they did not contravene any or violate anything from Article 83. So for him, his basis of argument is because Article 84 says that the team which contravenes the provisions 82 and 83, the two in conjunction, not in isolation. In other words, you have to have violated both Article 82 and 83 for you to qualify to be penalized in Article 84 with the conditions set henceforth. Now, this is where I want to depart with his views. In his interpretation, he does not appear to be wrong. So mark my words. That's what the rules say. And that's the letter of the law. And then we go back to the spirit of the law. What was the spirit of the law? I believe that the spirit of Article 84 is meant to provide administrative measures for whoever violates Articles 82 and 83 within their own respects as independent articles, not in conjunction. I'll use this example, and I hope it does paint the perfect picture. It's, for example, assuming the Constitution said that if you commit murder, you'll be jailed for life. Okay, it says, if you commit murder, you've broken the law. Let's assume that's Article 1 of the Constitution. Then Article 2 goes on to say that if you commit murder and move the body, you've committed a crime. You've committed two crimes: tampering with the crime scene and the murder itself. Then in the penalty, in Article 3, and it says, if you offend Articles 1 and 2, you shall be committed to life. Does that mean that if you only commit murder but do not move the body, then you do not deserve to be penalized? That's my understanding. That's where I want to get things, through. Pedro says, I'm so happy. Congratulations. Congratulate me now. I did congratulate you the entire night yesterday. Congratulations, Pedri. For those of you that care to know, Pedri is a Barcelona fan coming through from Spain. He's been very kind to us on the channel in terms of giving us not just his views about Barcelona, but also in the perspective of Spanish La Liga football. He's a man that has no kind words for Tebas. That's the La Liga president. He's a man that has no kind words for Real Madrid. He looks at them as enemies. It is the rivalry of football, even though I support Real Madrid. But nonetheless, he's extended his courtesy of kindness towards this channel. So we love him on this channel. He's a very good contributor on this forum. So yeah, Congratulations to you and Team Barcelona. You say you shall not murder, learned about it in school. Now, yes, we're trying to digest that CAF decision a little more because there are arguments making the case for Senegal, and whereas there are okay arguments, I found one a bit different from what I would have expected, or for one for which I have a different view, because the gentleman argues that for Senegal to be penalized as such, they must have violated Articles 82 and 83 together, not one of. So that's why I wanted to ask the question that if you commit one crime and do not commit the other, does that mean you do not get penalized at all for the one crime you committed? Because Article 84 talks about that a team which contravenes the provisions of Article 82 and 83, and the keyword being and, not all. You get? So, in other words, you're penalized if you contravene Articles 82 and 83. That's the argument he makes, that it's not 82 or 83. Now, and is the key word there that I want us to circle. Now, whereas that sounds true to the letter of the law, my argument is that in the spirit of the law, the makers of these articles may have not intended it to be implemented or exercised that way. That's my view. Pedri says it's a disgrace. They should have done it after the game immediately, and they should have not continued the game straight away. This is a joke for African football. Unfortunately, African CAF has officially fallen off. I'm sorry. Those are the views of Pedri in the wake of that CAF decision. So it's a kind of decision that has sort of divided opinion, with many criticizing CAF. We know that the Senegalese government has come out to call for an investigation on CAF, saying that some people may be corrupt and therefore are trying to push their own agendas. Then Senegal would say they will be appealing the decision in CAS, that's the Court of Arbitration for Sports. Unfortunately, from what I gather, it's not going to be some form of expedited trial where Senegal go make their case and, it's hardened. But in a week or 2 weeks' time, we have a verdict. Somebody went on to make a prediction as that it could take as many as 6 months. So we could have that dark cloud hanging over African football for the next 6 months, wondering what the verdict will be. So, but whichever way, for me, the one thing I appreciate about this decision or this conundrum is that it's a moment for us to learn from. It's because usually until something happens, you can never know what. For example, we often judge people for the kinds of decisions they make in life. So, for example, if let's say Pedri was a drunkard, God forbid, just using it as an example, it's easy to judge him as being a drunkard without acknowledging what leads him to be what he is, So I welcome the decision because it gives us a chance to have this discussion, to have an understanding of the rules, but also to give us precedent to say, if it does ever happen again, what decision do we make in the future? Is the referee's decision ultimate? Because people are saying the referee chose to play on the game. He should have finished the game there and then when Senegal walked off, and they are right to make that argument. But because he decided to carry on and the penalty was taken, went into extra time, then his decision of judgment should be final and the final result should stand. And I understand them and I agree with them in that respect, or within the respect in which they make that argument. But hear me out on this one. Because usually, if you have never been in such a conundrum, you'd never know how to deal with it. You always be assumptive that it's a given that this is how things should be done. But now that we have this conundrum, it gives us a teaching moment to say, yeah, this is how we'll go about it. Pedro goes on to say, I feel sorry for the legend, the hero, my role model, Sadio Mane. Imagine your medal being taken away from you 2 months later than than a match you're confirmed as a loser. I feel terribly sorry for Sadio Mane. Exactly. Yesterday I was talking about this and I was wondering. So what does CAF do here? It writes to the respective federations and it tells the Moroccan players to hand over the losers' medals, and then vice versa for the Senegalese. Give us the winners' medals and let's exchange them. Do they even hold a trophy awarding ceremony for Morocco? Somebody was asking who scored for Morocco in the final after Morocco had been awarded those 3 goals. Well, it's the rules of the game. Perhaps, by the way, for me, especially when it comes to situations of a team not absconding a game, a team, other than absconding a game, like a team not entirely not showing up, I think I'm starting to tilt more towards replays, like let's have the game replayed. This is from Pedro again, says, even Papa Gueye, with his beautiful goal, are you telling him all his efforts after went for nothing? This is a hit for African football credibility. Now I can't trust any result from an African match. Like genuinely, it's not so sad to see. It's so sad to see even Brahim Diaz was shocked to see that he won. He found out after the Manchester City second leg, he was like, it's surely a joke. So, anyways, there's another key moment that I wanted to revisit. Again, it pertains African football. It was involving a match between, I think, Wydad Casablanca and Esperance. So, and this was the Swiss-based Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS, had to intervene in 2019 when Moroccan club Wydad Casablanca walked off in the second leg of the Africa Champions League final, also protesting against VAR. In that case, they refused to play on, and the referee declared opponents Esperance winners, but CAF's executives committee then surprisingly ordered a replay. Esperance took the matter to CAS and were declared champions, with CAF embarrassingly rebuked for attempting to override the ref's decision. So, in that context, I agree with CAS. Because Wydad Casablanca walked off the pitch, refused to play again. Now, I made this argument yesterday, and I'll continue making the same argument. It's okay for players or a team to disagree with the referee's decision. It's okay. But walking off the pitch is not the answer. Once you walk off, to the letter of the rules, you have abdicated the game. You have abandoned the game. Unless the rules are changed to suit that scenario, that should a team feel aggrieved by a referee's decision, they are free to walk away, for which many games will then not ever finish. You go to stay on and play. Musical Region says, hi Musical, good to have you on the podcast. So, and I do not think we need that rule, because it then opens, it lets open room for a can of worms. So, but what there should be is that if a team feels hard done by with the referee's decisions, they can play the game, finish the game, and then appeal for a replay based on review of the referee's conduct. That if the referee behaves in an unprofessional manner or appears to skew the game in favor of one side, then they can request for a replay. I do not know how definitively those parameters will be defined, but I feel we can take that direction. Guys, Musical, Pedri, Liam, and Raymond, and every single one of you that has been part of this morning broadcast, I wish to say thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Until later, guys, I'll see you tonight. Do not forget, there's, before we sign out, guys, there's the UEFA Europa League. today. Quickly, the UEFA Europa League and the UEFA Conference League, those games are on tonight for the second legs of the round of 16. So Midtjylland against Nottingham Forest, this come at 8:45 p.m. Midtjylland against Nottingham Forest, Freiburg against Genk, Lyon against Celta Vigo. Those come in the early kickoff, 8:45 p.m. Then later on, AC Roma against Bologna, Aston Villa against Lille. I think I'll be looking forward to that one. FC Porto versus Stuttgart, Real Betis against Panathinaikos. Do not miss out on that. Then in the Conference League, you have AEK Athens up against NK Celje, AEK Larnaca up against Crystal Palace, Mainz against Sigma, Fiorentina away to Zesto Choa, Rayo Vallecano against Samsunspor, Shakhtar Donetsk against Lech Poznan, Sparta Praha against AZ Alkmaar, Strasbourg against Rijeka. Now, I hope all these teams with funny names get eliminated out so that I do not have to bite my tongue trying to read their names. Anyways, guys, have a blessed day, and I'll see you guys next time. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.